Hey, welcome to the All of You podcast.
We're your hosts. I'm Siobhan Roy.
And I'm Dave Martinell.
Our relationship hasn't always been easy. Especially in the beginning, we were getting in the worst conflicts that sent us down a path of deep healing and inner work in order to get the relationship that we wanted.
So whether you're on your own healing journey or just looking to improve your relationships overall, we hope that by sharing our lessons and struggles, we help you along your way.
And with that, welcome to the podcast where we accept all of you.
How you doing?
A little antsy.
Yeah, I had some weird energy moving through my body right now.
Yeah, I could sense that. Even though I shouldn't be energy monitoring you, I can still sense it.
Well, I don't know what it was from. I have ideas, but nothing particular that was like bad, but I was feeling irritable.
Mm-hmm. My least favorite emotion.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost feel like irritability sometimes for me is like a negative or some emotion or some energy in my body that needs to release and I'm not allowing it. I'm like trying to not feel a certain way, and that resistance creates an irritability.
Yeah, you're not allowing yourself to just be.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like allowing myself to feel the energy that is already there. It's like I'm trying to stop myself from fighting with my own self. It's like you take on things like we just got a delivery and it wasn't bad, it was fine, but it was kind of a little stressful morning, and so there was stress and angst, and then time kind of started to creep up on us, and so I have this stress that I don't want to be feeling, and then that in not wanting to feel that, I'm creating more tension in my body. If I would have listened to myself 5 years ago talk the way I just did, I would have thought I was insane.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm like, what are you, some guru-y, like? But it makes so much sense to me now. I feel it. I feel that in my body.
Yeah, and I can actually feel your energy that is little off, little irritable right now.
I'm less right in this moment, though.
I know, I can
it's
sense
passing.
that. Yeah.
It just had to pass.
Yep.
But I had a great morning. First thing, we read a bit of a book that we're reading, A Return to Love. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of brought us, we had a topic we wanted to talk about, and then the book put on our hearts the topic of forgiveness and resentment, and because they're kind of polar opposites. You know, it's kind of all this same concept of something happens or somebody brings energy to you and you can get resentful, or you can forgive and let go. And there's, in those two options, a lot of times our nature is to go towards resentment because forgiveness is a lot more work.
You know what's interesting though is, yes, I actually don't know if I agree forgiveness is more work. Maybe it is in the sense that you have to make the conscious choice to forgive, and then that is work. But resentment is way more heavy to carry, and in the end is therefore kind of more work.
Yeah, but my mind goes to like saving money or spending it. It's easier to save it because in the long run, it's less work if you have
think it's
money.
Easier to save money than spend money?
Well, your life is easier if you save money.
Yes.
And so it's like the hard thing, the good thing for you should be easier. It should make sense in our brains. Like, of course, like saving your money for a rainy day, having that money, it feels good to have that backup safety net. And it's smarter. It makes sense to save for, your transmission goes out in your car or whatever, right? but it's the harder thing to do. So the good things for you are the harder things to do often. And that's how I think about forgiveness and resentment. Forgiveness it should be the easier thing to do because your life is easier, your life is better if you forgive those around you. But the good thing is the harder thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel natural. The good things for us to do aren't the natural things for us to do.
No. But I think it goes back to that principle. I think we've talked about it before of like, do hard things, have an easy life. Do easy things, have a hard life.
Yeah.
And that is forgiveness and resentment. If you forgive, your life is easier because you're not carrying resentment, which is such a heavy weight on your mind. But forgiving it's hard. It's hard to forgive.
Yeah. So let's get into it. What even are those? Like, what is forgiveness and what is resentment? Because I think that is the tricky thing too. If you don't know, it makes more sense. Like you think of it as a child, like as like a 8-year-old kid, your friend does something really cruel to you. What's the natural thing to do? Hate them, be angry, be resentful, not let them back in. I think it's a survival mechanism to protect ourselves. So our like evolutionary or just our makeup, biological makeup kind of tells us to protect our hearts because it's survival. But in our conditioning, really, it's conditioning. Like it's kind of depends on what your parents taught you too. If they modeled forgiveness, then you might actually realize it's better. But if they model resentment, then you go that route. So when somebody hurts you, then getting angry and creating that defense mechanism is the birth of the resentment. I think that's where it starts. Like if we were to boil down resentment, if we zero in on what is resentment, how would you define it?
It's not releasing the pain that you're carrying from past hurt.
Not letting that energy move through your body and
Yeah.
not coming back to like a ground zero, like your nervous system. You're always like frustrated with that person or have this like tenseness in your body towards at the thought of somebody's name even.
Mm-hmm. It's just forgiveness with interest that's compounded.
Ooh.
Like you didn't forgive, and the longer you go without forgiving, the more you're compounding interest on that tension of non-forgiveness. And then the longer it goes, the more it's in your body and the bigger it gets. And then therefore the more resentment you carry, and you've got a big ass resentment monkey on your back.
Yeah, and it's one of the four horsemen in the Gottman Institute they talk about in relationships. Like if you have, what are the four horsemen? Resentment, contempt. I'm not going to be able to quote them all, but
You know them better than I because you
defensiveness,
study that more
resentment,
than I do.
contempt, defensiveness, and then I'm blanking on the other one, but they are like the killers. Like one of those four horsemen.
Relationship killers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have one of those in your relationship, you have you have something in there that can kill the connection. And that resentment is kind of the big one to me. Like when you sense resentment, it's tough.
I have a story of someone who I still haven't forgiven and I still carry resentment, but I don't know if it's appropriate to share because I haven't worked through it yet.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's harder for you to forgive people who hurt the people you love than people who hurt you.
100%. If someone hurts me, for some reason, I can work through it pretty easily and there's probably a core belief, there's probably a wound behind this, but if someone hurts someone that I love, I have a hard time not writing them off for the rest of time. Like, come at me all day, I'll find a way to forgive you. You come at my family, it's a lot harder. But that's that's something
that you're working on.
aside from this episode that I have to work on personally.
Yeah, because that's not going to be helpful for you.
It's not helpful for me. No, it's not. I know that. It's just admittedly an area that I have to work on.
Yeah, I mean, because you're so loyal and protective, which is a great quality, but forgiveness is huge.
It's where your strengths and your weaknesses are tied. Mine are tied there. I am one of the most loyal people you met, but then it also gets me into trouble because.
Yeah. I want to go back to like something you said in our very first episode where you said there's no bad people. There's a lot of people who are unaware and they know not what they do. And I think that that's where forgiveness begins, is with that heart of empathy and compassion on that person's experience. But then there's people who maybe have done things in the past. And if you're holding resentment, it really kills your mental health and your peace. Even though they might not be mistreating you now, if you have somebody that the thought of their name makes your blood boil, you're holding on to like a cancer inside of yourself. And it's not good for you. I mean, the old adage is like, you're drinking the poison, hoping for them to die. And so we need to discuss, like, what does this look like internally? Like, what is the inner work in dealing with resentment and forgiveness? And how does that, because I think that's where we don't, maybe, I don't know, the information's out there, but in society, in schools, we don't teach people these interpersonal relationship things. And so human connection is done through the heart and internally. And so when somebody hurts you and you go to protect your heart and now you create resentment in your heart, you're holding on to something that's not good for you. And how do you work through that? I think that's where I would like to go.
Yeah, I think what's helpful for me, and this is where I think I've got it partially figured out and I partially haven't got it figured out, is I find it easier to forgive people who truly know not what they do. They have no awareness of how what they said or how they acted could hurt someone else.
Like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, it's truly unintentional. Yesterday we were at an event and a woman said something to me that was like highly offensive. And the way that I was able to just brush it off was, she is absolutely clueless. She knows not what she does. I'm not even mad at her. I'm sad that she lacks the awareness and she's got to walk around probably not having a ton of friends because she offends so many people. That makes me sad for her. I'm not even mad. I can have compassion for that, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think holding space for compassion for people who truly are unaware when they hurt other people is helpful for me, because I can also look at it and I don't even have to go the route of like, oh, karma is going to get them. I'm already like, if they're living with that lack of awareness, that's the worst curse I could wish on someone. So I think holding compassion for people who don't know what they do is the easiest way for me to forgive. The place that I find it hardest to forgive is those that know what they do and consciously make the decision to hurt someone. I think that one is harder for me to forgive.
Yeah, but like in the first episode, you kind of said, like, that's not the norm. Most hurt comes from unawareness.
Yeah,
Very few people are like, I'm going to hurt this person and I want to hurt this person. And that's usually like a retaliation or something. And even in their minds, they justify it out of unawareness, you know?
Yeah, but so like, there's a scenario. Here's a scenario that maybe we'll edit out, maybe we'll leave in, but it's a scenario that I still struggle with. And that's when my brother was in high school. I'll leave out some of the details. Something happened, and my brother and his best friend both um, both partook in the event that happened. And my brother was going down for taking full responsibility for what happened. And his best friend, I remember looking at the text messages with my brother, and my best friend was like, "Bro, I can't admit, what my dad would do. Like, you got to take the fall for this." And my brother was like broken because he was going to take the full fall for what happened. And his best friend was like, "I can't, I'm going to let you take the fall because I don't want to get in trouble." That is knowing.
No, it's not. And
How is that not?
goes back to what you said in the first episode. It's like he has a life commandment to avoid trouble from his dad. You don't know what that kid went through, you know? Like, we just don't know people's stories. So in order to forgive, we have to understand that a lot more goes into why people are doing the things they're doing. And when you understand, and I know you know this, but this is a personal story for you, so it's probably harder to unpack. But when people do things like somebody robs a liquor store, how is that they know not what they do? They walked into the liquor store, they robbed the liquor store. They know what they did was wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't. They're in their minds, they were conditioned, or they're in such survival mode that they justify it in their minds to believe that that's the right thing to do for them, or for, like, I don't have money because so this is how mental health works for me. Mental health is being able to keep reality and keep truth and see and not be double-minded, right? And be in alignment with your heart and your mind. And so when somebody's not in alignment, they can literally work up excuses and blame on society or the government or on whatever else to believe that what they're doing is the right thing to do. When they go in, they don't say, "I'm doing the wrong thing and I like to do bad things." Like, very few people say that. If you were to talk to a gang member, they don't typically say, "I like to do bad things because I'm a bad person." Like, maybe they do believe that deep down, but a lot of times they justify what they do out of retaliation. If somebody hurts my friend, I kill them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm actually standing for honor and justice. Like, most gang members believe they're standing for honor and justice, like a vigilante. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is that people who do wrong things and wrong behavior, they're not typically, sometimes people are just flat out doing bad things. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I think most of the time people are twisted in their mind and in their conditioning to believe that that's better. Just like somebody's conditioned in their mind that spending and buying that t-shirt is better than saving that money, you know? Mm-hmm. And like, sometimes that is. Maybe you need the shirt to go to work because you need to get a job or a job interview. Like, that might be a good investment for you. But sometimes if you're in your closet's full of nice shirts and you are in debt, like, there are people who still will spend money and buy things and convince themselves they need that car or that thing. Our conditioning in our mind is playing tricks on us, on what we need, and we're in survival, and so we justify things in our mind. And I don't think people oftentimes are like, "I want to do the wrong thing." I think a lot of times they're justifying it in their mind that that's the right thing to do. And the reason that this is important for forgiveness is because until you can understand that, it's really hard to say they know not what they do. And that's where forgiveness starts, is having that empathy on their situation. It's seeing it from their side and going, that's why they did that thing. I'm still going to boundary myself. I'm still protecting myself from somebody that could rob me or somebody that could hurt me, for sure. but I forgive them. I don't carry resentment because I don't think that they were hurting me intentionally.
It wasn't personal.
If someone robbed us tomorrow, I don't think most likely it would be intentional. It would probably be because that person's poor and believes that they need to rob someone to get theirs. They don't think there's another way to get their needs met.
Right. If I don't rob that house, I won't have the money to feed my family.
Yeah.
And therefore, the most important thing is feeding my family, so I can justify robbing the house. Yeah.
Yeah. So a kid that grows up in a bad home can even justify their friend who grows up in a good home taking a fall for something because they're like, well, they're not going to get in as much trouble as I am. So if I take the fall, then I'm going to get in double the trouble. And that's not really fair. So they just justify it in their mind. And people are trying to avoid pain. They're trying to avoid pain. And that's how control works too. Like a lot of times in relationships, do I want to be the best partner I can be for you? 1,000%. But I can justify all day little ways that I can make excuses for why I do the things I do that annoy you because that's the way I am, or I'm already doing all these other things. Look at all this stuff. I mean, how often does an argument for a couple go into like tit for tat conversation? Like how many couples out there are
We're already
arguing?
laughing because I love tit for tat, and every time I go to tit for tat, you go, no tit for tat.
I laugh. I just started laughing now because it's silly to me. Okay, so you want to calculate all the things we do. You took out the trash yesterday. I did the dishes. I'm doing yard work. You're doing. It's like that is not a relationship, and it's not helpful for two people that are on a team. That's like if you have Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, you know, that were on the Golden State Warriors winning a title and trying to win a title, and then they lose and they're like blaming each other. Like, well, I made, 40% from three and you only made 1% from three. But what about steals and assists and rebounds? And like, it just doesn't work. Are we on the same team? Are we both trying our best or not?
Mm-hmm.
That's what effort and attitude matter, but results are not controllable. So when a couple gets into this attitude of let's pick apart our effort and pick apart what we contribute, good luck trying to sort that one out. What couple has actually been able to do that? People can't even do that with a divorce lawyer. Unpack years of I did this and I did that. It's resentment. And that's where resentment goes. It's like I'm counting, I'm tallying these things. I don't know how I got on that tangent, but
it's fun.
Yeah. So I think when you talk about relationally with people, we're people, we're not robots. And the way humans operate is through their conditioning. And you see it with animals, like you adopted Banjo from, as a street dog. He's going to have some trauma and he's going to react in certain ways, or maybe a certain noise could alarm him, like dogs barking at fireworks or something like that. Why is that normal? I don't know. It's their conditioning over years and years of evolution. Most dogs are afraid of fireworks, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so humans are the same way. We're a product of our environment. And if you understand that, then you can start to open your heart to understanding grace and compassion on their situation. And that's where you can forgive. And I'm not saying that because the people deserve forgiveness. I'm saying that because you deserve to not hold resentment.
That's it right there. Because that weight of resentment is where you completely lose your peace of mind.
Yeah, our relationship completely changed when I realized this. When I finally realized that I want a good relationship with you. No matter what you do, I want a good relationship with you. So as long as you don't do something that changes that I no longer want a good relationship with you, if you frustrate me or little things, I don't want to jeopardize my desire to have a good relationship with you for little things. Like I'm not going to pick those battles. They don't matter to me as much. If I could talk to you about them, I can ask you to change, but I don't need to even think for 1 second that I would leave you if you have too much hair in the drain in the shower, or like, I don't know, you don't do that, but like, I'll use me as an example. Like, I leave my shoes out sometimes, or just the annoying things that happen in relationships that can build so much resentment. I just decided our relationship completely changed when I decided I want a good relationship with you. So if that's my number one goal and what I want in life, then I'm not going to allow little stupid things to get in the way of that. Now, if you did something catastrophic like that could jeopardize that, but for the most part, nothing you could do really can change that. Like, I want a good, healthy marriage with you for my entire life. That's my goal. That's what I want. And so that's me. That's not you. That has nothing to do. That's just what I want. And so I take full accountability for pursuing that, instead of like evaluating you all the time, and measuring up like, oh, you're frustrating me now. You frustrated me today, or you ruined a day or a date night or this or that. Like, it's like, well, do I want that to jeopardize one of my number one goals in life, is to have a healthy relationship with my partner? No, then I gotta let that go and forgive you. And you know not what you do. And so like, forgiveness is the path to being able to reconnect at a base level. You want that spark, you want that bliss that comes with a new relationship within your marriage that's maybe 5, 10, 15 years old. Forgive. Completely forgive and see them like you would see them if you just met. If you can see them like you would see them like you just met, then you can have that connection like you just met, and that spark and that bliss. But if you're holding resentment and you're building that wall up between you two, yeah, that's why you don't have that spark.
Yeah, resentment is every time you don't forgive, you're placing a block in the wall you're building between you and your partner, and that's called the wall of resentment. So you don't forgive, put another brick on the wall. You don't forgive, another brick on the wall. And then suddenly there's so much resentment, you can't even see each other because you've got a wall in between you.
Yep. And you're shouting over the wall your experience, and the other person's shouting over the wall their experience, and you can't see them. And so when you can't see them, you don't have any intimacy. Like you can't, into me, see, like you see the other person. That's part of the intimacy, is that connection of like, I see you, I understand your experience, I'm interested in your experience, I'm into you. If you're behind a wall of resentment, I can't see you. If I tried, I have to literally pick apart each brick with interest now. And that's so difficult and so hard for relationships to recover from. It's possible. It's very possible. I firmly believe that, but you're in for a long road back. And learning this, how to forgive, is huge, but try. Like, what advice would you give to somebody who is by nature holding resentment? Their nature is to, when they're hurt, resent the person and not forgive. And they want to have a life of forgiveness.
If I were talking to that person, I would say, tell me about what that weight you're carrying feels like for you. What does the experience of that resentment feel like in your body on a day-to-day basis? How often is it running across your mind? And I think if you can get someone to really understand the impact the resentment is having, and then you can say, what would it be like to not carry that anymore? How would you feel? And if you can get someone to imagine what it would feel like to no longer be buried under the weight of resentment, and they can see that there is another side, that you would feel lighter and happier and more free. It really comes down to then, do you want to make the choice to forgive? Because forgiveness is ultimately a conscious decision you're making to forgive someone so that you're not carrying the weight of resentment. So, as silly as it sounds, is like forgiveness is almost selfish. It's not, but it almost is, because you get more out of it when you forgive than even the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just forgive to let the other person go. You do it for yourself. Give yourself the gift of not carrying resentment. Because resentment is really just more mental tension in your mind that is taking up space that could be used for you to think creatively, for you to pursue something you're passionate about, for you to be more loving towards someone in your life, for you to, I don't know, do some self-care. Whatever it is, you're taking up mental space that could be used for good, and it's being used for bad. I don't know. I don't like necessarily saying good or bad, but like
Negative
versus positive.
Yeah, you're giving your energy to a negative vibe, and you're allowing that person to take more energy from you than just moving along. Like you can, and I think this is a crux of it for me as somebody who's carried a lot of resentment in my life, from towards my dad, towards family members, towards a lot of people. The linchpin between forgiveness and resentment for me was that I thought if I forgave them, I was letting them off the hook. I thought that if I forgave them, I was a doormat. I thought I was a saint, or like sacrificing something. I didn't see that it was actually the healthier, more beneficial choice for me. And the reason in my brain, and I think a lot of people are like this, is because they don't trust themselves to set boundaries. They don't trust themselves to forgive and still protect. So like, I can forgive someone. I can forgive you all day for the little things or anything that happens. I could forgive you. It's my choice to forgive you. Now, how I respond and treat you moving forward could change, but I can still forgive you and boundary you. And learning boundaries has allowed me to have that confidence in myself to go, I can forgive them. I don't have to be resentful at all in the slightest. But also, if I don't see change and I see like a repetitive behavior, I'm just not gonna hang out with them. I'm not gonna give them time or energy or space. But when you are in a life habit, or you're living a life where you hang out with the same people all the time and you never move on from people, you feel like if you forgive them, then that means that you're stuck with their behavior, and now you're giving them like power to hurt you again, almost. And it's like, no. Don't give them that power if they don't change, and have the conversation with them maybe and give them an opportunity to change. That allows you to move towards forgiveness. For me, that's what allowed me to feel confident that I could forgive and still protect myself moving forward. Resentment was a protection mechanism that I no longer need in my life.
Ooh, that's good.
It's kind of like alcohol was to numb the pain, and the less pain I'm in, the more I don't really need the alcohol. Resentment was like the alcohol. Resentment was like the medicine that I used, and the protection mechanism for people's bad behavior in my life. I used resentment as a tool to protect myself and to guard myself. as I learn boundaries and healthy boundaries, I can use that tool instead. And then I can put down the tool of resentment and just move into forgiveness and grace and compassion.
Yeah.
And then I sleep way better at night.
Yeah, well, we think that forgiveness is letting them off the hook, but really forgiveness is just taking the hook out of us. So you're not hooked in. That hook is resentment, and that hook is you're constantly feeling this pull of mental tension where you're replaying what happened in your mind and going, oh, they wronged me and screw them. And it's this mental tension of just negativity on loop because you've got this resentment hook. Forgiveness is going, whoop, I'm going to take that hook out. I forgive you, and you have no more space in my mind, which means you have no power over me anymore.
Yeah.
When you don't forgive, you're giving them your power because now they're in your mind and they're holding you back from being able to live freely, and they're clouding your thoughts with negativity.
But what about the pain they caused? What about the thing they did that hurt me? What about that? What are they going to do? Like, they're just going to keep causing pain and that's okay? It's like, yeah, they're not your responsibility.
You have no control over them. You only have control over you.
Unlink your emotional tie to them. If they've hurt you, unlink that. Let them prove their way back. Yeah, I forgive you, but in order to have future access to me and my energy and resources or whatever, you now need to prove yourself. It's like if I let somebody borrow money and they don't pay me back, I'm not going to let them borrow money again. So I don't do that with my time either. If I give you my time and you hurt me, I forgive you. That time's gone. I can't get it back anyway. I chose to do it, but I'm not going to let you borrow more. I'm not going to give you more time and energy if you continue to waste my efforts. It's so hard though in the moment, but that's why this topic is so important, because if you do it and learn it, you really can heal yourself from those wounds that they caused by forgiving them. And we didn't really touch on it, and I'd like to, is how important love is for this. Because love is the source for it. That compassion, that grace, that able to see their side. It's the loving thing to do, is to forgive. And when you don't do it, you're not allowing love to lead you. You're not being heart-led. You're being mind-led. You're calculating, your pain, and you're doing math problems with your relationships instead of, well, I choose to love, and love forgives. And if I love someone, do I love them because they deserve my love? Or do I love people because I want to be loving? Because I want to learn to love well. And I want to be a person that's filled with love. Okay, if I'm going to do that, then I have to have compassion on the people around me. But that doesn't mean they get access.
What a free place to be.
Yeah, but some people will twist and manipulate, and that's where the last episode we talked about people who are dedicated to misunderstanding you. They will use your lack of access as a way to say that you haven't forgave them, because they think forgiveness is access. It's like, no, forgiveness is not access to me.
No.
That's different. Forgiveness is a heart issue. It's inward. And not everyone knows inside themselves. Not everyone understands how feelings and emotions and energy inside your body and connection with your heart and love. Like, not everyone knows love. And it's kind of the key to the whole thing. So I can love you from afar. if you don't treat me well and I don't see change, like, I love you as much as I ever loved you, maybe more. And this boundary in this space is actually love. That's what love looks like right now. It's self-love, and it's love for you because you need to heal, and I'm not helping you heal because our tension is not helpful for anyone.
Yeah, I think that's a really unique lens that isn't talked about enough when it comes to boundaries. Is boundaries in a way is an act of love. But when people are on the receiving end of a boundary, they can feel like, oh, this is rejection. Oh, this is them thinking I'm bad or evil. And really what it is an act of love, being able to create a safe distance between you and that person for each other to exist in a way that's healthy.
Yeah, I want to I know we got to close up, but like I say close up like a pastor. Like, I know we got to finish up, but I want to say that like this is such an important topic to me because I held so much resentment against my dad for so long. And I didn't understand why he would move so far away and not be involved in my life. Like I just couldn't understand that, right? And I remember calling him at one point after doing all this work, and I'm not close to him now, and I'm okay with that. Like that's kind of you don't get access to me unless it's productive. I'm too busy right now with kids and life and all that, and we never really were close in anyway. But when I forgave him in doing this work, I was able to call him, and I didn't. And I told him all the ways that I was hurt, but not to make him feel guilty, but in a way of like, I've never told you how much it hurt me. I never told you how much it hurt me that we didn't go to a baseball game. I never told you how much it hurt me that you weren't around for my birthdays. I never told you how much it hurt me when you'd pick me up on my birthday from a birthday party when I was really young, and I'd have to leave my own birthday party or whatever was going on. I don't even know if my memories are accurate, but it was, so young, like 5, 6 years old when that was all happening. And I told him the pain that I had been in, but then I released him with compassion and understanding. Hey, I can't imagine how much pain you were in at that time. I can't imagine how much pain you were in from your dad and all the stuff that happened from my grandpa, and how much stuff happened in your life when you were younger, and how much pain you were in the divorce with my mom, and how much the arguing and the tension, and like to do the things you did. I can't imagine how much pain you were in. So the releasing and forgiving him was like, he is my dad. You expect your parents to know what they do. You expect your parents to be more aware, but they didn't have the internet. They didn't have access to half the things I have access to. And just understanding their experience and knowing like they may not know what they did. And so, and they might have been in so much pain that they were coping in ways that they shouldn't have and causing so much pain further on. But the forgiveness is understanding their life story and what led them to make those decisions, and going, I got to release you from this because I don't want to carry resentment. Like if I'm expecting that you were different than you were and knew more than you did, then I'm expecting that you shouldn't have caused so much pain. But understanding that you grew up a certain way or whatever, I don't know, releasing that was huge for me. So I just think it starts with compassion and understanding the person that you're resentful of or that did the thing that harmed you, knowing that to do that, they must have been in a lot of pain.
Thank you for sharing that. And I commend you for having that conversation with him. I know the answer to this, but I think it would be cool for you to share what was his response on the receiving end to that.
I think it was the first time that I ever felt like he felt seen by me,
Mm.
and understanding like, whoa, like he gets this, but also we're not that close. So I didn't really get a lot, but it was like an hour-long conversation. And I kind of also said like, look, we're pretending in this relationship that I call you dad and I say I love you and all these things, but you didn't raise me. And so like we're faking it here. And I was like, to help me, I don't want to fake it. I don't want to show up to this relationship inauthentically. What's authentic to me is to treat you like basically like a long lost uncle that moved away when I was a kid, because that's kind of what happened. And you don't know my kids well, and you don't know a lot about me. And so just because we're blood related as father son doesn't mean that we have a connection. And so helping him see reality of our relationship was what came out of that. And then it was all healing for me, because it was releasing that expectation that he would assume or fight for this connection that just could no longer be there. At this point, I was probably 35 or something. He can never come back and raise me. That's just not going to happen. I'm already grown and have my own kids. So kind of just being in reality about the relationship and what it is. Now we can both operate in reality.
And I think that's a gift in itself, probably for both of you.
Yeah, he can release that he needs to make up for lost time. You can't. You can't make it up. It's not going to happen. And I can release this pain and wanting him to make up for the lost time or anything, and just be like, hey, that's just what it was. And it's okay that it is this way. It's hard. It hurt. It was a lot of pain, but letting it go was understanding he didn't wake up when he was younger and go, I would love to hurt my son. He made choices that were out of pain and coping, and human beings are so complicated and so tied to their beliefs and life conditioning and how they were raised, and pain and emotional pain, that they make choices to avoid emotional pain. It's just tough. But having compassion is where it starts for you to release the weight. Like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yep. Your dad was able to justify the pain he caused you in his mind.
100%. Probably still can.
He didn't want to hurt you.
Yeah.
I don't want to say no father, but I think it's very far and few between that a father wants to hurt his son, but his decisions did. And he could at the time justify all of them because of the pain he was in. Doesn't make it okay, but it does allow you to have the compassion to be able to forgive. And ultimately, forgiveness is what's going to make you feel okay about it.
Yeah, and I just have a belief, and maybe I could be corrected at some point, because I'm not married to any beliefs that I have, but I do have this belief, like you said in episode 1, there's not bad people. They know not what they do. And the people who are ruining their lives, committing crimes or getting DUIs and just coping all the time and knocking up girls and running away or whatever, ruining their lives and ruining the lives of others, these people are in so much pain. They can't get out of their own way.
And they lack the awareness to know they're even in the pain.
Yeah. And we need to try to help them. Like whoever's doing well, if you're doing well and you have awareness, try to help those who don't, but you got to become self-aware first. You got to know you can't help someone forgive if you've never forgiven. You don't know what it feels like in your heart to forgive. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.